Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are going to give people a minute or so to join. All right, so while everyone's coming in, let's take a look at who we have in our audience today. We are joined today by people from more than 44 countries. We have people from a variety of job roles, including community managers, fundraising officers, founders, CEOs, and alumni officers. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. Now, as a friendly reminder, you can ask questions throughout the webinar in the Q&A box. We will do our best to answer them live at the end of the session. But if we are unable to get to your question, we'll follow up in an email after the webinar. Without further ado, let's just introduce ourselves. My name is Carmel, Lynn. I'm a customer success lead at Hivebrite, and I will be moderating today's session. I am delighted to be joined by the leaders of Girl Up, a gender equality and leadership development initiative. Tess Reiman is the program coordinator at Girl Up. She oversees the club's program and supports Girl Up's community platform. Karina Sharma is the communications and digital media coordinator at Girl Up. She supports storytelling efforts across Girl Up's social media and other digital media platforms to highlight the impact of youth changemakers worldwide. Thank you both for being here today. Now, with introductions out of the way, we can dive into the discussion to discover more about this extraordinary community. So Tess and Karina, Girl Up is backed by the UN Foundation. How does Girl Up fit into the UN goals? Could you tell us more about the community's mission?
Of course. Hi, Carmel. Thanks so much for having us. We're so excited to be here to talk about Girl Up and our online community. So for those of us who don't know, Girl Up was founded by the United Nations Foundation back in 2010 to really help end gender inequality worldwide. And so we were created with this mission to advance the skills, the rights, and the opportunities of every girl everywhere. And today, Girl Up has an incredible global network of more than 5,600 clubs in 130 countries. And we've engaged with over 125,000 leaders over the last decade or so. And so while we're doing this, we're using leadership development programming that's really focused on advocacy, organizing, storytelling, and fundraising to train these generations of girls to be powerful change makers in their communities. Because we really believe that leaders of self can become leaders of peers who then can become leaders of change. So overall, this entire mission is also obviously in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals on gender equality, but it honestly connects with so many of the SDGs in some way, shape, or form, just because so many of our programs have intersectional issue areas, so that really Girl Up leaders can be an actionable force for social change and whatever issues they're passionate about, whether it's education or gender-based violence prevention, or having clean water access for everyone everywhere. So we are supporting them in doing that. And to do that, we've really created this online community that I'm gonna let Tess talk more about, and how we can use this space for these leaders to connect with each other and support one another as they try to form social good.
Thank you, Karina. Yeah, I'll talk more about the people and our leaders and how we kind of all work together to forward Girl Up's mission and overall advance girls' rights around the world. So we have 4 main cohorts is what we call them. We have regional leaders. So we have 18 regions led by 51 regional leaders around the world. And our regional leaders really support our youth leaders all around the world, especially clubs within their regions. We also have coalition leaders. So we have 51 coalitions globally led by 73 coalition leaders. And these coalitions are created when there's 5 or more clubs within a specific area to really build the sustainability of our clubs and community. And then we also have teen advisors. So our teen advisors are a select group of leaders who advance Girl Up's mission, provide feedback on our strategy, and support others taking action as really our kind of representatives between Girl Up's community and Girl Up HQ. And then our largest cohort is our clubs cohort. So we have 5,600 clubs represented around the world, taking part in a vast array, as Karina mentioned, a vast array of different issues and activities activism moments. And this all comes together in our Girl Up community. So all of these groups intersect and collaborate at different times on a daily basis within our Hivebrite platform. And the community is really a central space where our groups and our leaders can meet up and communicate with one another, get ideas from one another, and just find a common, actual sense of community within Girl Up. So here we have our different groups that are available. We have hundreds and hundreds of groups, but we use them for different purposes. So every club has their own group page. We also have regional groups and coalition groups, and then we have community groups as well. So we saw so much collaboration within our community platform. We wanted to create a more central space where people from all over the world could come together to focus on issues beyond whatever their clubs are focusing on. So for example, we have the arts club, the reading club, just these common hobbies or interest areas. Club members and community leaders can come together and kind of bond over that. And we also have the community engagement group as well as a really central space that we'll be talking a bit more about later. But this is kind of like the one-stop shop for all things that are our clubs, regions, coalitions, and all of the above are really participating in within our community.
Thank you, Karina and Tess. This is a massive community, and you are fighting these complex issues, specific issues, like Karina said, child marriage, education for girls, gender-based violence. So how do you measure the impact of community on these issues?
Yeah, so I'll take on the qualitative or the quantitative side, and then I'll pass it to Karina for the qualitative. So we do have club reports. So we ask that all clubs report activity reports, progress reports, and kickoff reports. So essentially with this, we are able to collect data and information about what our clubs are doing, and it gives us a kind of an inside scoop of what activities are being hosted. We oftentimes will use this when highlighting our club's activities on social media, and Karina will talk more about that. But then we ask that they submit progress reports so that we can see their overall growth over a certain period of time. Say every 6 months, we can see how many new members they have, what impact they've made, and if they're achieving their goals or any roadblocks that they're experiencing to see how we can support them. And then we recently rolled out our GLI survey, which comes from our larger Girl Up leadership framework. So Karina mentioned in the first question, we have leader of self, leader of peers, and leader of change. And this is really how we view a holistic approach to activism. So with these three components is what we like to call it, we are able to see the impact that our club leaders and community members, teen advisors, whoever it might be, are able to make within their communities, but also how Girl Up is impacting them personally. So with this, we've recently rolled out the GLI survey, and we are able to provide pre and post surveying to our different cohorts. So far, we've finished up with 3 full cohorts completing post surveying, and we use this data and these results to then feed into our programming, our content, whatever it might be, to enhance our growth, enhance the user experience, and make sure that we're seeing the impact that we'd like to see in order to push our mission forward and support our youth leaders.
Yeah, so as Tess mentioned, club reporting is one of the big ways we measure our impact. And it's one of my favorite ways we measure the impact as well, just because collecting these stories and these activities that these Girl Up clubs and leaders are doing in the internal community, but then also spotlighting this really tangible and actual impact of our leaders on these issues on our external social channels is so inspiring to see, not just for our own network, but for Girl Up leaders and youth leaders and really anyone, anywhere. And so we have a series of different club and leader spotlights where we share maybe menstrual product drives or STEM-based events that these clubs have organized, or even like educational infographics that they've created. We make sure we have a space to amplify this work that they're doing because we know these local steps can really cause a global impact. And so one of the ways we also do that is through targeted campaigns, through some of our major moments of the year. So for example, right now, obviously in March is Women's History Month. And so one of our campaigns is #GenerationGirlUp, where we really spotlight these generations of Girl Up leaders who have been with us maybe since they were 13 or 14 and who are now 22, 23, and the journey that they've gone through as an activist and the successes they've had and the lessons they've learned and the friends that they've made throughout this entire journey in this process with Girl Up. And so I think numbers, of course, are important to measure the impact, but also having that story and that humanizing effect of what leaders are doing and what the impact is in creating equality worldwide really inspires other leaders to say that I can do that too, and I can be that change in my community. And it really just causes an unimaginable rippling effect around the world.
And I love that you're combating this like twofold. You have Tess on more of the quantitative, you have Karina, you're focusing on the qualitative, and they're both equally important for you to drive success on the community. I think it's fabulous. So before we dive into our next question, we're going to have a poll. Do you survey your end users? So audience, feel free to select whether you do or do not survey your end users. All right, I'll be able to share the results just a moment here. All right, so it looks like about 64% of the audience does survey their end users and 36% does not survey their end users right now. Fun fact, Hivebrite does have a survey tool in the back office where you can pin a survey to the live feed. You can even create a tab for your survey. You can even email it out as well. So just going back to Karina and Tess here. So Girl Up is working with 125,000 females across 130 plus countries, as we've seen on the map. What specific strategies are you using to help train, educate members, even facilitate knowledge sharing with such a young and diverse audience?
Yeah, that's a great question, Carmel. So I think really what we're trying to use the community and our social channels for is to democratize the access to Girl Up's learning and leadership programs. We just have so many available, and we want to make sure that we're sharing these resources in the community. So it's really available and accessible to all our users and all our leaders, wherever they are in the world. So an example of that is that last year we launched a curriculum on gender-based violence prevention. And this was to help raise awareness and really solidarity about this incredibly prevalent issue around the world, and encourage our youth and youth everywhere to take action to combat gender-based violence in their communities. And so before we launched this curriculum, we actually sent out a survey to some of our users to find out what they needed and what they wanted to learn from the curriculum, and then they could co-create it with us. And so now that the curriculum is launched, it's a peer facilitated curriculum as well. And it's linked in the community. And so that way thousands of Girl Up Club leaders can learn about this issue. They can reflect on the ways they want to eliminate it, and then actually map out paths to action together. And so I think having that space and that platform for everyone to connect and see how they can help each other and learn together is so important to make sure that our audiences are all on the same page. And we're also being really intentional, I think, about how we're using the community to communicate with our users. So if we know there's an opportunity to speak about an event that is focused on sports and the gender gap in sports, we know that a certain group of leaders has expressed an interest in sport. Like Tess mentioned, they can create interest areas or join different groups that are related to different hobbies or interests, and we can target those users to make sure that we're directly engaging with them and ensuring that they have the opportunities to participate in the issues that they are most passionate about, and that are targeting their most diverse and passionate interests. So I'm gonna let Tess talk more about how we're doing that within the community.
So I would say our strategy stays top of mind when we're considering the feedback of our users and members. So Girl Up is a youth-led development or leadership development initiative. So we really want to emphasize the importance of youth-led within our community. This is kind of the central hub of where we can receive feedback and see the interests or maybe the growth opportunities that our community members are engaging with, talking to us about, whatever it might be. So the communication between us at Girl Up HQ and then with our community members is first and foremost the most important part of our community strategy. Also, DEI is always top of mind when we're considering the community platform, when we're navigating the platform and the community as a whole. Our reach is so global, and every single person within our community deserves a seat at the table. And so with that, we always want to be accessible to our members, and we are always here to listen to their feedback, to what they're responding to. For example, we saw repetitive questions when we first launched the Girl Up community, and we were seeing, you know, what do I do? I just registered. What's the next step? How do I start a club? Whatever it might be. And we realized that there was a gap in our platform that wasn't really helping them understand what the next steps were. So we do have a chatbot function within that's integrated within the platform. So basically, anyone who has any questions can immediately reach out. It goes directly to me. They see, you know, Tess Reiman pops up. So it's a real name, a real face. They can see my profile, and it gives it that personal appeal, and they can just ask any questions. So this is where we were seeing a lot of repetitive questions. And with that, we created the Get Started Center, which creates a space that allows new members, new leaders to access frequently asked questions, answers, whatever it might be, to support them in their next steps within the community. We also are really focusing on growing a multilingual platform. Excuse me. And with that, we want to make sure that we are accessible to our leaders around the world on a global scale. But we also have to understand our growth opportunities and our gaps within our programming and our overall mission. So for example, as we are consistently learning about our gaps and opportunities, we are also understanding the limitations that we see. For example, the digital divide is a major issue around the world that's affecting youth leaders. And so our programming being primarily within the community platform, we're constantly assessing ways that we can maybe adjust our programming or grow it to be more inclusive of those that are affected by issues like the digital divide. So it's really understanding the growth areas, the successes, and also the limitations that we see in order to foster growth within our community strategy and support what we're providing to our leaders.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Karina. I love the fact that you are really using your end users as drivers within the platform. They are your partner admins in a way, and you found patterns, you've made changes upon that. So really great response there. I just would like to know, what is the strategy behind these monthly club challenges that you have in your community? How are you tracking the impact?
Sure. So Girl Up HQ provides these monthly club challenges that are an opportunity for our club and community members to engage with our issue areas and our skills. So we have various issue areas, and then we see 4 different skills, including advocacy, fundraising, storytelling, and organizing. So every month we create these club challenges that combine our issue areas, say advocacy around gender-based violence in November to align with the 16 days of activism. And then this creates a really cohesive place for our club leaders and members around the world who are engaging on a local level to come together and really advocate on a similar issue with other leaders around the world. So it's just this central spot where our leaders can come together, especially new club members and new clubs that have just started. They're like, what do I do? That we usually say, you know, a club challenge is a great way to get started and get that inspiration going. So in our club challenges, we first focus on educating participants. So we're talking about the issues that specific club challenge focuses on, and then we create a space for reflection. So we want our clubs to be in conversation with one another and kind of think about what this means within their own communities, within their own experiences. With that information, they'll then go on to create change in some way with a call to action. So that could be advocating in your community through legislation and working with your local congressman or lawmakers, whatever it might be. And then we also are able to measure the impact within that through our club reports that I'd mentioned earlier. So with the Hivebrite platform, it really maximizes our capabilities with measuring impact through these reports and through the accessibility of our club challenges. We are able to see their engagements and then link it to social media platforms that we use to really bring it all together and create this central space within the community.
Yeah, so Tess more or less covered it all because she is the driving force behind our monthly club challenges, but really just to help maximize that impact and that awareness and that interest in our club challenges, and so that our club leaders really know that these exist and these are resources for them to access and use on their own personal quests for social change. We share these excerpts from the challenges on our social channels usually as well, but then always link it back to the community. So whether it's linking it back to the club challenge page on the community where they can see the calendar of club challenges that are in the past and that are upcoming so they can plan ahead, or it's maybe linking directly into those specific issue area pages that delve deeper into the research and the facts behind these different issues that they're advocating for. Or maybe it's just linking to the club reporting page link so that we're really ensuring that our leaders know exactly where they can go to participate and share their reflections and their impact and their activities that they've done with the club challenges, so that we can again amplify and spotlight that on the community and on our socials for everyone to see.
Fantastic. I mean, I love these club challenges, and I manage our community, so I'm able to kind of keep on top and see what you do. Just want to put out another poll to the audience here. Do you have community leaders? So feel free to select your answer, and then I will communicate the results. Great. All right. We have 82% that said yes, that they do have community leaders. So that is phenomenal. You're taking the burden kind of off of you as a system admin, also a community manager, and really finding those leaders and super users within the platform that can help you. That is excellent. So Tess and Karina, how do you choose and support the club leaders that you have? How do your leaders engage with each other, create bonds, even partner together?
Yeah, so one of the most interesting things about Girl Up, I think, is that we don't choose club leaders, actually. Since Tess mentioned, we're a youth-led movement. Really, any youth between the ages of 12 and 24 who is passionate about social change and is passionate about ending gender inequality can really start a Girl Up club and become a Girl Up leader. So although we don't choose our leaders, we do support them with a lot of different resources and a lot of different platforms and programs so that they can really connect with one another and advocate for these issues together. So as you've seen and as you've heard, we have club leaders all around the world. And so one of the easiest ways that they can really connect with one another is through that club map that we had a screenshot of at the beginning. So they can go directly in the community and see which clubs are near them, which clubs are, maybe there's opportunity to start a club in a city or a county near them. So really just being able to click on that map and then communicate directly with those clubs is a great way for them to forge bonds with one another. We also have so many different events. So whether it's headquarter based, where it's Girl Up headquarters organizing an event that club leaders can attend and participate in, like our Girl Talk series that is every so often. It is monthly, but now maybe not so much. We have quarterly series. We have our summit. So having all these major events that our Girl Up leaders can again see each other and connect with one another is a great way for them to talk and see what else is happening in advocacy spaces around the world. But also the clubs themselves are creating events. So whether it's the clubs or the coalitions, the regional groups, they all have so many different events that other club leaders can join in and organize with. We also have just a lot of different spaces for our leaders to talk to one another. So we have a forum where they can discuss world events and issues that they care about. We have the live feed where they can post updates on what's happening in their clubs. So just having these open spaces where they have control to say what they want to say and share what they want to share. And then lastly, I think one of the newest and most fun programs that the community has led, that we've launched the community, is the Pen Pal program. The Pen Pal program matches Girl Up leaders all around the world with one another. So you could be a leader in Houston, Texas, matching with someone in Zambia, and you could be able to talk with one another about your advocacy journey, about your Girl Up experience, about the lessons you've learned, the challenges you faced, your favorite movie, your favorite book, whatever it is, just to really connect and become friends with one another. And so far we've had over 900 leaders participate in this program, and it just keeps growing. So it's really exciting just to see that these friendships are forming through their common love and passion for advocacy.
Kind of rolling off of what Karina said with these collaboration opportunities, these ways that we're seeing relationships build, these really honestly happen naturally, and we're just there to kind of support it and push it along and find new ways that we can build on these relationships and this desire to meet people around the world and see how we can create more of a common space for that in the community. So those pen pals talk to each other through the messaging function within Hivebrite, and they really have so many incredible conversations through that. More broadly, looking at the collaboration that we see between our leaders, I think it's hard to look for silver linings during this pandemic in the past 2 years, but I think one of those silver linings is seeing this desire for connections, desire for collaboration, and especially we're so used to now living a virtual life, and I think especially our demographic between the ages of 12 to 24, a lot of schools were online, so they're so used to connecting with people virtually, and our community platform provides a beautiful space to be able to do that. So we wanted to kind of emphasize the importance of collaboration and see these relationships build. So in order to do that, we created the community engagement group, which highlights different observance days throughout the year. So if two people from around the world are thinking, we want to do something, but we don't know what, they can maybe align with an observance day that's highlighted in the community engagement group, or we post updates on our club challenges, upcoming Girl Up HQ events. So it's a separate place that creates this sense of community within the larger community to really emphasize collaboration. We can also build communications between Girl Up HQ and our really active, engaging leaders within this group. So for example, for Women's History Month, we were asking what activations were happening this month within clubs or within different groups within the community. And so we saw a couple of responses there. We really use this as a space to engage with our leaders, communicate, and share what's coming up to expect. But overall, we just see a lot of communications within the live feed. And as I said, this really happens naturally. It's just us to be there, kind of be the cheerleaders and help them along and see how we can continue to support them in the process.
And you're providing inspiration. So, and you're providing it as admins, but also the leaders and even your champions within the platform are providing almost talking points or points of celebration with each other. And that's just to kind of like encourage those conversations, like even within the Pen Pal program, which I find super interesting and very creative way to get your users connected and also talking. So one of the things I did want to ask you is, from growing this global community, what have you learned just working with this massive global growing community? How do you adjust your strategy based on the learnings?
Yeah, so first and foremost, youth-led is top of mind when we're forming our strategy and bringing it into every step of the community implementation process. So we always ask, who should we be talking to about this? Who are we targeting? What is the benefit of it? And how are we going to be supporting our leaders? And then from there, we're able to get feedback and apply it to our programming or to our strategy as a whole. So being intentional about putting our youth first and foremost is so important throughout the whole process. As I said earlier, those repetitive questions in the chat that we saw allowed us to make updates to our platform to better support our leaders. So we're overall constantly listening and evolving our platform to the needs of our leaders and seeing what their desires are, what their needs are, what their interests are, and building on those. So it's just constantly putting their needs and their wishes forward at the front of it all and adjusting through that.
Yeah, I mean, as Tess really mentioned, we're really never not learning. I think every day is a new learning experience for us. But I think one of my main goals as well is to just use the community and our social channels really hand in hand to streamline that communication to our members and really to all our external networks of supporters and partners and friends just all around the world. And then reflecting on that level of engagement of our leaders and then adjusting our content based on that reactions. So currently we're seeing a rise in interactive content. So the more videos that we're posting and the more Instagram stories where they can respond with their own photos and their own ideas and their own questions and comments is really on the rise so that they can feel again part of this movement and that they are part of this community, whether it's on the community itself or on our external platforms. So I think having this community and having this interaction with our social channels is really giving us a more personal access to this really rapidly growing number of leaders, which then makes us make sure that we are more representative and we're more inclusive of our global community. And then we can be more accurately aware of how we can support and amplify these leaders in the ways that they need and want. So whether that's, again, creating content in multiple language, like Tess mentioned, or to post about country-specific observances that maybe we hadn't posted about before because we didn't have a club in that country. It's really making sure just the overall goal is that they can see themselves on our platforms and recognize that they are the movement and they are the ones leading this movement.
Well, that's excellent. And so I just want to ask, what advice would you share with community managers wanting to increase engagement in their communities? This is a hot topic. So how would you advise them on creating this engagement if their communities are feeling a little dull or not? We're getting a little quiet. How can we amp it up?
Yeah, I think I have 3 things that all kind of tie into each other. So we launched our platform almost a year ago, not even yet, but we've learned a lot in the past, say, 9 months or so. And with that, I would say be patient. It takes time to build a community and it takes a lot of patience. So you'll see growth. It's not going to happen right away, but over time, when you put that daily effort into it and really put the needs and the feedback of your users first and foremost, then you'll see growth and you'll see interest. With that, it's really important to be present. So you can be patient and wait, but you have to be present within the platform, engaging with your leaders, engaging with your community members to build that sense of trust, because the more trust that you build within the platform, people are going to see you as a support system and communicate with you what their needs are, what their feedback might be. So being present and being active. So being active means for us, every single day going in there, communicating with our leaders and making sure that we're adjusting whatever we're doing to their needs rather than constantly asking for them to adjust to what we are looking for. So I think the biggest three things, as I said, were be patient, be active, and be present overall.
I mean, I think Tess summed that up pretty beautifully. So I'm going to keep it very simple. But I think my advice would be just to adapt and to amplify. So obviously we've learned over the past couple of years, the world is never going to stay the same, and neither is our online community. So while the world's adapting, so will our community. And so we need to always just be making sure we're aware of what will best reflect the interests and the needs of our users. And again, keeping that top of mind, because obviously their needs and their wants is priority. And then amplify, because the more that the users feel that the community is their space, then the more they'll engage, really. And so if you put the spotlight on them, you give them the spaces to connect and talk with one another without you hovering over those spaces, maybe. Again, they're going to feel like that community is their space to really get to know each other, to really share with one another their learnings and their growth, and then continue to grow together. So always be ready to adapt and always be ready to amplify, because at the end of the day, the community is their community.
It's their home to check into. Well, that's great advice, from the patience and this openness, this responsiveness that you need to have, as well as just being able to adapt to the community needs, but also amplify, build off of your existing community and also the other channels and platforms at your disposal. So I think it's excellent advice. Now it's going to be time for us to take some questions from the audience. So I'm going to click on the Q&A and see what we've got. All right, so our first one is, would be helpful to know more about the startup journey. Maybe Tess and Karina weren't there for that. I'm guessing most people here today are considering a platform and are overwhelmed with getting started versus scaling. So I think what the question is here, helpful to know more about the startup journey. So Girl Up, I guess, getting started as an organization, and how most people are here today and considering a platform and are overwhelmed with getting started versus scaling. Okay, so basically, how do you get over this overwhelm of getting started versus scaling? So do you guys know a little bit more about like Girl Up's origins and want to speak to that and kind of how the community came about?
Yeah, so I wasn't here for the planning phase of the community development, but I know that strategy was so important to the growth and success of our community platform. So building a really strong, cohesive, and comprehensive community strategy is so important in order to see your goals, your overall goals, but also how you're going to achieve those goals and what growth areas that you're looking for. So I think that building a really, really strong and comprehensive strategy is so important, first and foremost, before diving right into it and just assuming, hopefully this works, but having that to fall back on and be, confident that you've built this strategy, that you really trust in it and you feel confident about it. And so having that, I know, was a really big part of our community development before the implementation process.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Tess, for that. Would love to kind of hit upon this. It's popular. What tools are you using to monitor activity and impact in the community?
So one of the main things that we look at is just those daily check-ins. Honestly, it's just us going in and seeing what's going on, because our live feed is so popular. We think it's because it really replicates, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it might be. And so it's similar to other social media platforms. So with having a community manager go in there on a daily basis and just check in with the users, the members, to see what they're doing. But also, as we mentioned, those reports are really a way that we can measure our impact as well. So seeing how we can connect the engagement within the community, but also with our reports, and use that to kind of take out specific examples of what our clubs are doing with activities or the progress that they're making.
Excellent.
I think
oh, go on, Karina.
Yeah, I just had one quick thing to add is another page that we use a lot to track engagement and impact is through our opportunities page. So that lets Girl Up headquarters, such as me, if I need to come in and ask for an opportunity of, okay, we need social content for one of those campaigns I mentioned, like for Women's History Month, we're able to share that and have youth leaders, again, respond to me directly and say, this is my story, this is my content, I would love for you to share it. And Girl Up leaders as well can go on the opportunities page and post whatever opportunities they have as well, whether it's, again, to speak at an event or participate in a drive that they're hosting, or write an article for a magazine that they're starting. So again, having that space where they know what leaders are doing can give them inspiration. It also lets us track what's happening and what's going on in our community, wherever that they are.
Yeah, and you can do this even through the Google Analytics integration, as well as some of the web analytics that we have featured in the back office of Hivebrite. And also, I think one of the tools that are so valuable that you use is the intercom, so that you're able to make sure that that activity is continuing to grow. So if there's any questions or if there's any guesses that your end users may have, you have like a chat bot available in the platform, and either of you are so quick to answer, which is great to your end users. So another question that we have here is, could you share some of the resources that you included in your Get Started space? Do you use video tutorials, articles? We have somebody just interested in learning more about this.
Yeah, so we really built on the questions that we were getting in from our members and kind of developed the Get Started Center based off of that. So we created an entire page within the community that links to some sub pages that asks about, first steps. I just joined the community. What's next? What is Girl Up? What is our issue areas, our core skills? How can I start a club? So it's very diverse in the questions that we're responding to, but those are building on the consistent themes that we saw within the questions. And then we also have the technical side of things. I'm not able to access my group page. Where is it? How can I become an admin? Whatever it might be. So there's a really diverse array, and then also making sure that the page itself kind of replicates that of other pages within the community. So it's a consistent theme that we have going on throughout the Get Started Center, and linking it to different parts of the community so people can access information from different points.
Excellent. And I have a question from Neil here. It says, you all do amazing things, which is true. I was surprised to hear that you've only been on this platform for 1 year. Can you talk a bit about how and where the organization was before Hivebrite, and how this has transformed your organization and increased your impact?
Yeah, so I got started last year about the same time that we started our Hivebrite community platform. So wasn't too involved in the previous platform, but I can say that Hivebrite we've seen our maximum level of engagement from before with our previous platform. So we're seeing exponential growth. We see, at least 100,000 new members a month, whatever it might be. And we're able to see that exponential growth and increase within Hivebrite. And I think that's through the capabilities that Hivebrite provides and its ability to replicate other social media platforms or websites that our users are kind of incorporating it into their daily feed. If I'm going into Instagram, I'm also going to check the community because I have an app for that now. So I can just go in and quickly scroll in and see what different leaders are engaging in, or how can I access some different resources, whatever it might be. It's just so accessible now for our leaders, and really focuses on building that collaboration between leaders around the world. So it's not just a place where we're housing, their club page, but also there's so much more that our platform is capable of now. So it's also creating that sense of excitement for our leaders to kind of check out what's going on, or talk with other people, just like it would be another platform.
I think for me, I've also seen the growth of the close-knitness of the community. I'm also just joined over the past year. And so just seeing how much the leaders are engaged with one another, how much they're cheering each other on and supporting one another during the different opportunities or during the different events, or congratulating them on successes they've had with their club, is just so heartwarming to see. And so I feel like they've really grown to create this supportive, safe space for one another to really learn and grow with each other. And so I think having that space has been so important for their growth, and also our own growth as an organization, just so that we can, again, see what they're doing, what they're passionate about, what activities are really causing a lot of engagement within the club leaders around the world, so that we can make sure we're creating resources and platforms and having different opportunities for them to, again, engage and learn more about those skills or issue areas that they're focused on.
Yeah, excellent. It's the global community and it's also the groups. So that engagement is core too. I have someone asking, what are your future plans for the community? Do you have any other exciting initiatives in the pipeline?
Oh yes, there's a lot of things lined up. So first, top of mind right now is our Learning and Advocacy Hub. So we really utilize the Media Center as our resource center, but at this time it's kind of just spread out. There's not much of a theme in our resources that we're providing, and they're not all up to date. So we have resources that have been developed recently for our STEM for Social Good boot camps or whatever, or Girl Talks, whatever it might be. There's so many resources that we have that are catered to specific events, but that can be adjusted to provide content and resources within the community. So the Learning and Advocacy Hub will be developed as this one-stop shop for all Girl Up resources that focus within our issue areas and our 4 core skills. We also want to provide a space within the Advocacy Hub that amplifies youth-developed resources. We see so many clubs and community members developing blog posts, newsletters, magazines, art pieces, whatever it might be, so many things that are kind of just going into the live feed and might disappear after a couple weeks. But this is a really great place that we can upload their resources to amplify their voices and the impact that they're making there. So that's one of the things. And then we also have our new alumni network, and Karina, please build on anything I'm saying, but our alumni network is launching or it has launched, and it's a place within our community that we can bring our previous members back to support and mentor our current leaders and members. And as I think someone mentioned, the mentoring tool or module in the community for the pen pals, that's not what we're using. We're using that through Typeform, but we would like to incorporate the mentoring module with the alumni network as well.
Excellent. So those are great responses. It seems like we're going to streamline the resources on the platform. We're going to get mentoring to accompany the pen pal. And I know that you're going to build out some learning courses, do an integration in the future too, which we've talked about. I do have a question from an attendee here saying, be patient. What's a realistic timeline for a new community to get its stride? This one can be a little tough.
It's honestly ongoing. So we launched June, July last year, and we saw growth right away. I think that was something in terms of numbers. Registration was really hitting off right away, and we've seen just continuous linear growth through that. So I think in terms of saying be patient, it's less about the numbers that we're seeing in registration, but the relationships that you're building as the community manager. So being patient means always being active within the community, communicating with your members, seeing how you can support your users. And eventually over time, I honestly think it wasn't until December, January, where people were directly emailing me saying, hey, I know that you support the community and you posted about this. Could you tell me more about it? So people are starting to really recognize myself, Karina, and a few other Girl Up HQ staff as people, like, points of contact that they can directly reach out to for different things. So Karina, I know you are in social, so I'm going to reach out to you directly because I have a question about this. So it takes some time, but overall, I think it's less about the numbers that the patience requires and more about the relationships that you're developing with that.
I think really Tess touched on that. One of the key ways to do that is to, again, use our own personal accounts to engage with our users. So although Girl Up has its own Girl Up headquarters account, Tess and I rarely use that to communicate with our club leaders. Again, it's putting that face and that name to the content that we're creating and the relationships we want to build with our leaders. So having that, again, first name basis is really helpful in doing that. And I think another way of getting your stride is to really maximize your other platforms. So obviously your community on Hivebrite is so beautiful and it's growing and it's going to be a great space for leaders to connect. But you also have maybe other spaces for your leaders to connect previously. So whether it's your social platforms or it's your website, maybe it's your LinkedIn or whatever it is, make sure that you're also maximizing those set of eyes and that network to link back to your community network, I think. So that's one of the ways that Girl Up is really doing that with our social channels, is to make sure that posts that we're creating, that it's a spotlight, that it's a club challenge, whatever it is, our main goal is to link it back to the community so that people are registering and that they're aware that all this information is living in that space that is built for them.
Excellent, excellent. I know we're running out of time, but I just want to ask one more question. Does your community have a mobile app? Has this helped with the digital divide?
Yes, so we do have a mobile app, and it definitely helps with part of the digital divide. As we know, the digital divide isn't just within, accessibility to a phone or network, whatever it might be, but it looks different in every city, in every country, region, whatever it might be. And so we want to acknowledge that the app is not the, solving part of that puzzle. For the digital divide. So that's something that's top of mind, is understanding how the digital divide affects digitally isolated communities on a local basis, and seeing how we can continue to put that at the front of our strategy and focusing on DEI to ensure that we are supporting our members beyond just the app. It definitely helps. It's been a really great thing to have it accessible easily for people all over who don't need Wi-Fi, whatever it might be. And we know that phones are a lot easier to access compared to computers, or we see transportation issues within that, but there's a lot more going into that as well. So working with our regional managers on a global basis and seeing how the digital divide is affecting their leaders as well, and then understanding the digital divide at large and the policies that play into that is really important. So it's kind of, there's many different ways that it's affecting our members, and we want to continue to focus on that rather than kind of seeing the app as, we did this, we checked the box, we're good to go. But it definitely helps.
Excellent. And we have time for more questions, so they keep coming in. Thankfully, we have 15 minutes, so we're going to keep going here. What was the transition like from the old platform to the new platform, Hivebrite? What was that transition like for your users? Or maybe from what you heard of, because I know that you guys you've been here a year, you kind of came after the implementation. Anything that you might have heard from your implementation specialists and even your leaders about the migration? Were they able to migrate as many users from the old platform to the new platform?
So I think what made it really accessible for our members to transfer what they were doing in our previous platform into Hivebrite was sending individual invitations. So we've invited all of our network. We have, X amount of people in our previous network that we have contacts for, and inviting them to activate their accounts that are already created. Their emails are already in our system. All they have to do is click a button and they will have activated their accounts. So that made it really easy and accessible. I think with any platform, with any transition, there is a bit of confusion. We had some changes within that. For example, the reporting process, we had a lot of members say, what happened to all of our reports? We had access to it, now we don't. Just going crazy, but just providing that sense of security and comfort and confidence within the platform and showing all of these new capabilities that we have was really helpful in that transition. So once people were able to get comfortable with it, it does take a little bit of time, but I think that providing that confidence boost by being active within the community and showing that support system was really helpful in the early stages of the process.
Great. And I was just going to say about having the communications in place, which Karina, I'm sure you're going to touch on because you're the communication specialist here. Yep. Just making sure that you get the word out. It's coming.
No, I think you're right on, Carmel. I think communicating these changes and again, having that get started page and having those email inboxes and chat boxes functioning enables so that people can again contact us with any questions and concerns as they're growing and learning, but also having that space to connect with the other leaders who are going through it at the same time that they are was a really big help, I think, for all of us to learn together, since if they had a question or an issue, it wasn't just Tess or Maury or someone else on our team or me responding to it, but it could also be another Girl Up leader who said, I face that issue. Here's how I solved it. Can I help you do this in a different way or in the same way? So I think, again, having that that sense of we're learning and growing together really helped make that transition easier, because it wasn't just Girl Up staff helping, but it was literally Girl Up communities all around the world.
Excellent. And I have a question here. How many people are on the Girl Up team running the community? So yeah, how many others are supporting you in running this community?
So I am like the managing the community at this point. And then we have different people coming in from Girl Up's staff to support different aspects. So we have our program team supporting STEM for social good, sports for a purpose, our gender-based violence curriculum. And so a lot of our different staff feed into different parts of the community and provide support that way. And then lovely Karina is always, available and supporting that as well. So we're having weekly conversations about how we can integrate or streamline communications between community things, external things. So there's support definitely all over. And it's so important for the organization to buy into the platform and support the platform on an ongoing basis, to feed in, provide feedback, and also as the community manager to make sure that your colleagues feel really confident in the different capabilities and what they can do. So for example, creating new groups and allowing them to have that autonomy to oversee the group and be an admin for the group to provide their insights, but also demonstrate the capabilities of the community.
Okay, thank you for that, Tess. And I guess how many staff members in total work for Girl Up?
I feel like we're growing every day. It has to be have maybe more than 30, more than 40 staff members. It's been incredible to see the growth of Girl Up throughout the last year that I've been with the team. And so I think we're growing globally, and we're also growing in terms of the types of programming and the types of positions that we are having with the team. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. We love to see the growth. And one last question, the chat box, is the chat box within Hivebrite? So this is the intercom.
Yep. So it's integrated with intercom. So I will receive updates whenever someone is, chatting me or something within intercom separately, but it's directly integrated through the Hivebrite platform. And then with that, they're able to see my profile and click on it. So in the bottom right corner, we have our little chat box. And then when it pops up, it says Tess Reiman. And then when we're going back and forth, it's populating for them within the community, and they can direct message me in the platform, but then I'm on the back end in intercom, and they can learn more about me. If I'm saying, find this regional leader, they can directly go do that within the community groups as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for being here today. We're almost out of time, so truly thank you for answering all of these questions. And Karina and Tess, you shared some valuable insights and experiences here that we can all kind of walk away and take with us into our own communities. So thank you so much for that. We'll be sharing the recording of this webinar by email. If you have any questions, please hit reply on that email and let us know. A survey link will be dropped in the chat. We would appreciate it if you can take 1 minute to give us your feedback on today's webinar. Thanks again, everyone, and goodbye. Have a great day.
Thanks, Carmel.
Thank you, Carmel. Bye.
Bye.